Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam, and I am the Community Energy Coach. And our program supports communities, local governments, and industry stakeholders in the promotion of the Clean BC rebate programs, as well as the education of heat pumps. We are also joined today by my colleague Elena, who will be presenting for you. This webinar, of course, is being recorded, and all rebate amounts are reflective of what is available today, October 26, 2021. And for the most up-to-date information on anything related to rebates, always check out betterhomesbc.ca. We also have some guests in the audience as well. So we have Niall Hallam who is the Community Energy and Emissions Specialist with the City of New West. And he'll be speaking about some of the current services and programs that the city is offering. We are also joined by Sue Chung, the Program Coordinator for Energy Save New West, who has been there since early 2021. And she'll be providing some details about that program in the chat throughout the webinar. And speaking of that chat box, don't be shy, please ask questions along the way. I will be monitoring the chat and do my best to answer all of those questions. And we will, of course, have a Q&A at the end of the presentation as well, where everyone can take themselves off mute and ask questions if they so choose. But again, chat box is open throughout the whole presentation. We would like to acknowledge with respect the Coast and Strait Salish and WSÁNEĆ peoples on whose traditional unceded territory we are presenting today, as well as the Kwangin, Songhees, Esquimalt, and WSÁNEĆ, whose historical relationship with the land continue to this day. And I invite everyone on the call today to also take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territory you're joining us on. And with that, I'll pass things off to Niall with the City of New West.
Thank you, Sam, for the introduction. So I'll be starting off by providing a bit of a refresher on our Energy Save New West program. And just to summarize, it's essentially a community energy program that helps support our climate emergency targets. And these are reflected in our climate and land use planning policies, such as our 2011 Community Energy and Emissions Plan and our official community plan. And this program essentially acts as a platform that provides our local residents and businesses with support and technical advice services to implement energy efficiency retrofits and access rebates and incentives. Next slide, please. And so just also wanted to provide a bit of a background on our ongoing climate action work and how it relates to our climate emergency. So our council declared a climate emergency in 2019, and this recognized our role in the fight against climate change. And as part of our 2020 budgeting process, our council endorsed this climate action budgeting framework from which we developed our 7 bold steps. And this framework is intended to guide the city towards reaching our 2050 climate emergency targets. So through our Energy Save New West program, we'll be looking to support specifically bold step 3, which refers to carbon-free homes and buildings. So the target for that is that we hope to replace all new heating systems and hot water systems with zero emission, low carbon energy systems by 2030. And it also directly supports implementation of our bold step 5, carbon-free energy, where we're hoping to implement a smart electrical grid for our utility and stimulate uptake of renewable energy generation. So this emergency essentially set in motion the formation of our new climate action team to implement climate initiatives. And so one of these major initiatives is our development of our updated Community Energy and Emissions Plan 2050, or CEEP 2050. So this plan will essentially support the implementation of our 7 bold steps. So if you want to stay in the loop and stay tuned in terms of the project updates relating to that, please feel free to visit our Be Heard website, where we'll be providing regular project updates on that. Next slide, please. So in terms of our existing home program services, Energy Save New West currently provides pre-upgrade energy evaluations for residents. So by registering for our program, you can access rebates and incentives that provide support for energy evaluations. So as part of our program offering, we'll be issuing access and providing guidance and technical support to residents who want to retrofit their home. There is an initial fee, so that's $75 you have to pay upfront, but that will be fully reimbursed through the Clean BC Better Homes program, which Sam and Alina will be walking us through shortly. And so you can also access our heat pump top up, which provides $350 for electrification retrofits. But in order to access these, I would highly suggest registering for this program. And you can do that by either visiting our Energy Save New website or calling our hotline. And we will be sure to follow up with you with regards to the contact details. I believe so you can feel free to input in the chat box there, the contact information. And next slide, please. And lastly, I'd like to provide a brief overview of our upcoming heat pump pilot program. So this is anticipated to launch in spring 2022, pending council approval. And the main objective of this pilot will essentially be to better support our existing homeowners by providing a more accessible and affordable way to electrify their home, in addition to helping the city achieve our climate emergency targets. So as part of this program, we'll be providing technical support and better access to qualified contractors and new incentives. So right now we are in the process of finalizing our program design, and we anticipate producing a draft of this program designs later in the year. And so after council approval, we'll be essentially just looking under the hood and figuring out the logistics and setting up the program. So we'll be on track to launch this in the spring. And we have created a Be Heard website page for this particular project as well. So please feel free to visit that particular website to stay in tune with project updates relating to this initiative. And with that, I'll be passing it back to you, Sam. Who'll be walking us through the Clean BC incentive program.
In fact, I'll be taking over. Yeah, thank you so much, Nail. Welcome everyone. Good evening, and thank you so much for showing up tonight and for being curious about heat pumps. My name is Elena, and I'm very happy to tell you a little bit more about heat pumps. And the way we're going to do that is we will start with how heat pumps work, the very basics, the different types of heat pumps that are the most common in BC and on the Lower Mainland, why we get so excited about heat pumps. We want to share tips of things you should know before you buy a heat pump, things you should know once you have bought a heat pump. We want to tell you what people who already have a heat pump think about them. And of course, we will get into the rebates that are out there for heat pumps. So for those of you who weren't here right in the beginning, I just want to repeat what Sam said about the rebates. And that is that the rebates that we're discussing today are the rebates that are available as of today, October 26, 2021. So I will share a really great resource with you where you can learn about all the rebates that are out there at the time when you get a heat pump or when you are watching this recording. And of course, in the end, we'll have some time for some questions, but feel free to put your questions in the chat box. Sam will be monitoring that. Also, before anyone asks that question, a recording and a copy of this presentation will be made available after the webinar. Okay, with that, I want to get started with something that is as important as understanding heat pumps, and that is the house as a system approach. So the house as a system approach is a concept that, a building science concept that every house is made of components, and those components all affect each other in terms of energy efficiency. So when you are considering getting a new heating system installed in your home, for example, it is very important that you take a good look at your building envelope. So that's your windows, doors, your exterior wall insulation, the attic insulation, draftiness, because you could get the best heat pump of the world in your home. If you lose all that heat through the building envelope, then that's not only losing a lot of heat, but also money. So therefore, before you get any new heating system installed or before you plan a renovation, we always recommend getting started with an Energet home evaluation, which is an unbiased service by an energy advisor who can take a look at your home, create an energy model, and provide you with an unbiased, customized roadmap where to get started. And yeah, through Energy Save New West, which is a really, really great program, you can get that Energet home evaluation for a lot cheaper, $75, which you can get reimbursed. So I will get into more detail about that later. But we're here for the heat pumps, and I'm sure you're curious why heat pumps are so special or special and different than other heating systems. So a heat pump is an electric heating or cooling system. So that's the first thing. It not only heats your home, but it also cools your home in the summer all in one system. And even more importantly, it is the most energy efficient heating system that you can possibly have in your home. It's about 3 to 4 times as energy efficient than the most efficient natural gas furnace or than electric baseboards or an electric furnace. Also in BC, we're very fortunate that we have our electricity from BC Hydro, which is hydroelectricity, and that is considered almost carbon neutral. That's also the case for the New West electricity. And in fact, I think all of you have a heat pump at home, or at least a type of heat pump, because your refrigerator is actually just an insulated box with a type of heat pump in it. So I'll explain to you why that is. Your refrigerator has refrigerant lines inside, which give it the name refrigerator, and it has a compressor in there. So inside the fridge, those refrigerant or the refrigerant in the lines absorb the heat energy from the inside of your fridge. Then it will be transferred to the through the compressor, which pumps the temperature up to a higher level in the refrigerant, and then basically dumps the heat to the back of the fridge. Now, I know everyone is trying to avoid taking a look at what's behind the fridge, but if you did, you would notice that there is warm air coming out, and that's exactly what a heat pump would do. It would pull heat from one space and transfer it to the other. So to take a look at a real heat pump, so to speak, is we got a type of heat pump here, which is called central system. And what you see here is the exterior of the home and the interior of the home. On the exterior, you always have an outdoor model. In this outdoor model, there's the refrigerant lines and the compressor somewhere in here. And then it is connected through those refrigerant lines to the inside of the home, where in this case of a central system, there is an air handler, just like the furnace you might be used to, that will distribute the heat through ductwork throughout the house. So what happens on a winter day, even a cold winter day, is that there is still a lot of heat energy left in the air, even on very cold days. And that refrigerant can absorb heat energy even at low temperatures. And that compressor in the outdoor model will then pump up the temperature level to a higher level, which gives it the name heat pump, and transfer that heat into the home where it's then distributed through your ductwork. So instead of creating heat from scratch by burning a fuel, it uses heat that's already there, pumps it up to a higher level, and moves it to a different place. Now, let's reverse the cycle. And let's say it's a hot and humid summer day. We've all experienced it this summer. So inside your home, it's kind of muggy, humid, warm. And with your thermostat, you can just put your heat pump to cooling mode. So in cooling mode, the refrigerant will now reverse the cycle and it will absorb heat from the inside of your home and will be moved to the outside of the home where the compressor pumps it up to the higher temperature level, and then it's dumped to the exterior air. And that's how the heat pump would cool your home, just by reversing the cycle. So that's what makes a heat pump such a genius system compared to other heating systems. Here we see that with a different type of heat pump. So this is a heat pump that doesn't require any ductwork. So you get that smaller outdoor unit in this case that is connected through refrigerant lines to the inside of the home. And in this case, there's just a wall-mounted indoor head that will then distribute forced air in a zonal heating way to the interior of the home. So you see this in heating mode. It absorbs heat. You'll see it in a second. It absorbs heat here, and then it pumps it to the inside of the home. That's about how heat pump works, but there are a few types of heat pumps that are most commonly used in BC, so I want to introduce them to you. And the first one is the one that we just visited. That's the central system heat pump. Central system just means that it basically works like a furnace where there's ductwork throughout the whole house and the heat is distributed through that ductwork. In real life, that often looks kind of like this. It's usually a cubey kind of outdoor unit. Among the central system heat pumps, there are also heat pumps that we call a dual fuel central system heat pump. So it's called dual fuel because instead of just using electricity for the heat pump, it also has an integrated natural gas or propane furnace. So basically you integrate the heat pump and the gas furnace. So at a certain temperature set point, the heat pump will, the gas furnace will take over and provide supplemental heating. So dual fuel heat pumps are not necessarily required in the Lower Mainland and on Vancouver Island because we're very fortunate that our climate is very mild. And yeah, but if for folks who want that type of backup system, they can choose to do so with a central system heat pump. And there's the third type, a very versatile type of heat pump, which is called ductless heat pump. It has a smaller outdoor unit, and then it often comes with indoor heads instead of ductwork throughout the house. And those indoor heads are usually mounted on the top of the wall. That type of heat pump comes with a few different names that you might see floating around. So sometimes it's called a mini split. That's usually the case when it's just one indoor head. Sometimes it's called a multi-split heat pump. That's usually when it's multiple indoor heads. Often they're just called split system. And among the mini split heat pumps, there are actually heat pumps that are partially ducted or fully ducted. So there's some homes, for example, where you have an indoor head in the main living area, open concept living area, and then some people decide to have mini ducts installed in a crawl space or an attic to connect to the odd bedroom. So there's many different options, and you can totally ask contractors what would make most sense for your home. Just to compare the two a little, the central system and the ductless heat pump,
Basically, both of them provide heating and cooling. Only the ductless heat pump, of course, provides zonal heating, which just means that you can heat certain parts of the home to a different temperature level than others. And of course, only the central system does require the ductwork. You might not know this, but heat pumps actually provide air filtration and dehumidification, which I will get into more detail about later. And technically speaking, or generally speaking, ductless heat pumps are a really great option for homes that don't have any pre-existing ductwork, like homes that only have electric baseboards, homes that have an older furnace and the ductwork is in rough shape and would cost a lot to upgrade. So, and of course, the homes that have the need for zonal heating, for example, you have a basement suite. But again, every home is very unique. So talking to a contractor about the perfect system for your home is a great idea. And we'll talk about that later. So the next part is about cost, a very, very popular question for us, and an unpopular answer because it is a typical it depends answer. So before I get into that, I need to provide a little bit of a disclaimer because the data that we have here is from a rebate program that existed in 2018 for folks who switched from oil heating to a heat pump. And we got a whole bunch of cost data from that program. However, what we found is that the cost range of the participants in this program was very broad. So there were heat pumps that started at about $4,000, and then there were heat pumps that were well over $20,000. So you see, providing a ballpark number is not so easy with such a large cost range. So what we show here is the higher end of the average cost range. So that was about $12,000 for central systems and mini splits. Mind you, that was also 3 years ago. So take this into consideration. Your heat pump for your specific home might be less or more than those $12,000. But what we want to show here is that in comparison with a standard natural gas furnace, installation costs, and the current rebates, a heat pump in terms of the installation cost is very comparable to a gas furnace. And of course, we'll get into all the details about the rebates later. Okay, so now you know how a heat pump works, what types of heat pumps there are, but I'm very excited about this part because I'm going to share with you why we get so excited about heat pumps. Basically, it's that year-round comfort, heating and cooling in one. You get a more climate-friendly home. It is the most energy efficient way to heat and cool. With the air filtration, you get a healthier home. And for those of you who heat with fossil fuels like natural gas, which I know there's a lot of you on this webinar, you don't pay any carbon tax on your energy bill. So let's take a look at that. I want to start with the efficiency. Some of you might have thought earlier, how can a heat pump actually be 300% efficient? So that is because a heat pump heats differently than any other heating system, really. So if you have a gas furnace, an oil furnace, you burn a fuel to create heat energy, to turn this fuel into heat energy for your home. A heat pump doesn't create heat from scratch, so to speak. It uses heat that is already available. So if we take a look at this and we just imagine this is the exterior of the home, this is the interior of the home, there's the heat pump in the middle. What the heat pump does is it uses heat energy that's already available, that doesn't need to be created. And it uses a little bit of extra electricity to power the compressor, for example, to pump that existing heat up to a higher temperature level and release it to your home. So if you had a standard electric heating system or a gas furnace, it would have to input all of that energy to get that same output, but a heat pump uses heat that's already there. And that's what makes it such an amazing heating system. For those of you who have an electric heating system, it's definitely the most cost-effective option to heat your home. And that goes, of course, hand in hand with the efficiency. If you compare a heat pump to electric baseboards or an electric furnace, an electric furnace or baseboards, they have an efficiency of 100%, which is really great. However, a heat pump, like I said, has an efficiency of 300 to 400%. And that's what we are all concerned with, or should be all concerned with. Heat pumps are by far the most climate-friendly way to heat a home here in BC. So in New West and rest of BC, we get our electricity from hydroelectricity. And what we have here is a like a publication from the Capital Regional District on Vancouver Island, where they modeled a home, the same type of home, with an oil heating system, a gas heating system, and a heat pump, and compared the greenhouse gas emissions. And I mean, it's really no secret that oil heating is probably not so great for the climate. But even if you look at the gas furnace in comparison to a heat pump, the greenhouse gas emissions are significant. And heat pumps are really in alignment with the province's goal to create a low carbon future. And yeah, heat pumps, by having a heat pump, you make sure that your carbon footprint shrinks by a lot if you heat with gas. I touched on that earlier. So heat pumps do provide air filtration and humidity control. It helps rid your home of indoor pollutants, dust, pollen, and other allergens. So if you have any folks in the home who struggle with allergies, a heat pump is a great option. And quite frankly, unfortunately, every summer we're kind of somewhat getting used to just having forest fires around, and having a heat pump to help keep your home clean in terms of the smoke is a great option. I will share those operating tips with you about heat pumps later, but one of the advantages of having a heat pump is that it's such an easy system in terms of operation. You set your thermostat and you forget about it. It's the set it and forget it principle. With a heat pump, you enjoy a very low maintenance kind of heating and cooling system, and I'll explain to you why. And of course, this is only true for the mini split heat pumps. And the mini split heat pumps, they provide zonal heating. So if you have a basement suite, like a rental suite, and you want your tenants or whoever lives in the basement heat the space differently than upstairs, having a mini split heat pump is a great idea. Or frankly, if you just want to heat certain parts of the home to a different temperature level than others, a mini split heat pump is a great solution for that. And also, heat pumps are, simply put, the heating system for the future. That's really the way to go in our modern days. So what we got here is actually a couple from Saanich on Vancouver Island. And for them, it was really important to have a home that's more climate change resilient and also just ready for the future. So they decided to install solar panels, they bought an electric vehicle, but it was also important to them, and I believe they switched from oil to significantly reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. And that's not only by getting an electric vehicle in their case, but they enjoy a much more climate-friendly home with the heat pump. And I don't believe there's a lot of you who heat with wood primarily. So I just want to say, if there are any people who watch this who heat with wood with a heat pump, you have no more cutting or hauling wood into your home to rely on it. Like this gentleman here from Saanich, he installed a mini split heat pump. You see the indoor head in the picture, and he really just enjoys his wood heating just for ambience every once in a while. All right, I hope you're convinced that heat pumps are really great, but there are definitely a few tips that I want to tell you about in terms of buying a heat pump. And the first tip, and I cannot emphasize that enough, is to choose a qualified installer, a really great heat pump installer. And we always recommend to avoid buying wholesale or online. So it's really worth it to put in the effort to contact a few different installers and to get multiple quotes for your heat pump. There, you should always ask very good questions. On the CleanBC website, you see here, betterhomesbc.ca. We actually have a lot of tips for hiring a contractor and the questions to ask. So for example, do you specialize in heat pumps? Do you provide quotes and free quotes and site visits? What do you know about the rebates out there? Are you aware of the qualifying product lists? Things like that. And do you schedule servicing appointments? Those kind of things. Then, of course, my second tip, that's that Energet home evaluation. It is really important, especially if you have an older home in New West. You want to make sure that your home is nice and airtight and well insulated before you install a heat pump or any heating system, really. And lastly, it is important that you select a heat pump with your contractor that is properly sized for your home to be the primary heating system, designed for your climate. Again, New West climate is very mild and includes or considers supplementary heating if that is necessary for your house. And once you got a heat pump, here are some things you should know how to operate a heat pump, because as we have learned, heat pumps do work a little bit different than the average heating system you're used to. The first operating tip is set it and forget it. So what a lot of people don't know is that a heat pump runs the most efficiently if you set your thermostat to your preferred comfort level and you basically forget about it. You don't fiddle around with it. There's actually a few people who they think they're doing something good by turning the heat pump off when they leave the house, like whenever they leave the house to go grocery shopping or whatever, to save extra electricity. But what they might have not been educated in is that the heat pump, because it has that refrigerant that has to absorb the heat and then pump it up to a higher temperature level, it takes quite a while to get to a certain temperature level. But once it's going, your heat pump is going, and it's going very continuously and very efficiently. So because that's the case, because it doesn't burn a fuel immediately and get hot, so your heat pump will actually run the most efficient if you set it to your preferred level and leave it. That doesn't mean that you can't turn your heat pump off lower during the night. It's just more so stepping outside and then coming back and expecting the heat pump to be up and running right away. It uses more electricity to get up to that level. And the second operating tip kind of has to do with the first one. For those of you who are used to natural gas heating, or I don't think there's any oil heating, but to that kind of natural gas heating, you are used to intermittent blasts of hot air through your gas furnace when the fuel is burnt. And compared to that, a heat pump, because it runs so continuously, will provide a lower temperature heat output, but very continuously. So it doesn't mean that your heat pump won't heat your home to 21, 22 degrees, whatever you prefer. It can totally do that. But the air that comes out of the vent might feel a little bit cooler in comparison to what you use from a gas furnace that kicks on, burns a fuel, and it's hot air blasting out. So if you have a harder time adjusting to that new heating system, then you might want to turn your thermostat up just a degree or two if you like warmer air coming out of the vent. So I said earlier, heat pumps are low maintenance, and I meant that. So really, what you have to do with a heat pump is regularly, or I guess in the beginning when you get it, check the manufacturer's manual. I know nobody likes to read manuals, but you can just do that once in the beginning and clean the indoor filters of dust and pollen. And that is especially after forest fire season. And then of course, for a mini split heat pump that has heads that you control with a remote control, you want to replace the batteries whenever necessary. It's kind of self-explanatory. In the spring and in the fall, so whenever the seasons change, we get some storms. So you want to just clear the outdoor unit of debris, leaves, snow, dirt, whatever comes up, just to make sure that there's not too much stuff getting in there. And once a year, you do want to schedule a servicing appointment with your installer, which, by the way, is another great question to ask if they offer that as a package or something, because you just want to make sure that everything's all right with the heat pump and that, you know, everything's okay with the refrigerant lines. So here are the things that you can expect after heat pump installation. I said it before, no more intermittent blasts of hot air. It runs much more continuously to your desired room temperature. Of course, since it is an electric heating system, you will be able to expect changes to your hydro bill. And if you have an electric heating system currently and you switch to a heat pump, you can probably expect a decrease in your hydro bill because now you're using way less electricity. If you heat with a fossil fuel, then of course, now you will see an increase in your hydro bill, which should be offset by a decrease in the fossil fuel consumption. And one thing that is also worth noting is that if you use a heat pump for cooling and you've never used air conditioning before, then of course in the summer, your hydro bill will go up a little bit since now you're using electricity to cool. And for some people, outdoor noise is a real concern. So I think a lot of people are thinking about the older generation of heat pumps that made a lot more noise than the newer heat pumps, especially the ones that have variable speed compressors, for example. And every heat pump comes with a sound rating. So if noise is a concern to you, definitely talk to your contractor about the decibel rating of a heat pump, and maybe they can choose one that has a lower rating. There's also many tips and tricks that contractors use for reducing noise in those areas where it's a concern. For example, you can put them on rubber mats. Some contractors use like hedges as a solution. And also municipalities do have bylaws, so you can't just put a heat pump wherever you want on your property. There needs to be certain rules where a heat pump can be placed in terms of noise. And actually, the city of Vancouver has a really great heat pump and noise FAQ pamphlet kind of thing, which when you get a copy of this presentation, you can definitely check that out. They debunk a lot of heat pumps and noise myths. Okay, before we get into the rebates, I definitely got to take a sip of water because that's quite a mouthful. All right, so we've learned a lot about heat pumps, and I'm sure you're more than curious about the rebates that are out there. The great news is there are really great rebates out there for heat pumps at the moment. But those good news, of course, comes with a lot of information because every rebate program comes with a lot of requirements, deadlines. So I could probably talk to you about the heat pump rebates until midnight today, but I don't think anyone would stick around for that. So what I'm saying is we have condensed a lot of rebate information in a very short amount of time. So you might find the following a little bit confusing or a little bit overwhelming, but that's absolutely okay because I will be sharing the Energy Coach service resource with you, which is an amazing resource where folks can call energy coaches or email energy coaches to learn more about the rebates out there, and that will be tailored to your specific situation. So that's actually what I want to get started with here, the CleanBC Better Homes website. So that is just betterhomesbc.ca. And what the CleanBC Better Homes website is, it's basically a provincially funded, unbiased information hub for British Columbians to learn about all kinds of upgrades, energy efficiency upgrades like insulation, windows, heat pumps, where to find a contractor, what questions to ask a contractor, Energuide home evaluations, and of course, all the rebates. So under this rebate search tool button, you can find rebates in New West, and this is all completely unbiased. So this program, the CleanBC Better Homes program, comes with an energy coach service. And that is a very great team of super well-educated energy coaches who can help you personally to figure out where to get started, where to find heat pump contractors, what kind of rebates are out there, what are the steps you have to take. You can email them, you can call them toll free from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and they really know their stuff. So if you end up being a little bit overwhelmed after this webinar, please do not be shy and call or email an energy coach, and they're happy to help you with your situation. All right, so I showed you guys the rebate search tool, but here's what it looks like. In the rebate search tool, you basically select that you want to renovate a home. You can type in your location like New Westminster, and then you have to indicate how your home is heated. And then you get a list of search results. So those are all the rebates that you could potentially access. You can also filter. So you can filter for insulation or space heating or evaluations. And then if you wanted to get the central air source heat pump rebate, for example, you can click on there and you get to a summary page. Those summary pages tell you absolutely everything you need to know about the rebate, the requirements, the application steps, the deadlines. And if you find any of that challenging or confusing, you can always call an energy coach to make sure you're on the right track. Okay, so now, actually, I'm going to go one step back before I get started with the one program, because there are currently two major programs out there that offer rebates for heat pumps. One is federal, it's called Canada Greener Homes, and one is provincial, which are the CleanBC Better Homes rebates. And we will quickly jump into both of them. I'm going to get started with the provincial CleanBC Better Homes rebates, and then later quickly about the federal program. So in order to qualify for the provincial CleanBC rebates, you basically just have to live in an eligible home. So that is any single family dwelling, side-by-side, row, or townhouse, or mobile home on a permanent foundation. Condo buildings or multi-unit residential buildings where the units are stacked are not eligible. And the amount that you get for your heat pump depends on the primary heating system that you're replacing. So I'll go into that next time on the next slide. And then the heat pump must become your primary heating system. So you can't just install a heat pump for air conditioning only. And also, some people think any heat pump would qualify. That is not the case. They have to meet certain efficiency requirements, so they have to be on a qualifying product list. And what I'm going to do next in the next step is I will show you what the different rebate amounts are coming from different types of heating systems. So I'll start with homes that are heated with electricity, like electric baseboards or electric furnace. And that rebate for a mini split heat pump is $1,000. And the rebate for a central system heat pump is $2,000. Please note that you cannot replace an existing heat pump. So if you have any heat pump on the property and you want to get a new one, there is no rebate through the provincial program. And there might be some people who watch this who have a wood heated home, and the rebate is the same as for electrically heated. That's $1,000 or $2,000 for a central system. And now all the information after this right now is for those of you who are heating their house with a fossil fuel, so natural gas, for example. Since September 28th, 2021, BC Hydro, and that includes the City of New West, announced their new electrification plan. So folks who switch to an electric heating system like a heat pump from a fossil fuel, they get an automatic $3,000 top up. And that combined with the normal $3,000 rebate, switching from a fossil fuel will be $6,000. It doesn't matter if that's a central system or a mini split. It's a $6,000 rebate, which is a really, really great deal at the moment. And there's also certain other types of heat pumps. So I should really note earlier when we talked about the dual fuel systems, if you integrate a heat pump with a gas furnace, like you see here, dual fuel heat pump, the rebate is not $6,000, it's only $3,000. And yeah, you only get that $6,000 if you switch to an all electric heating system. There's also some other types of heat pumps that are less commonly used. They're hydronic heat pumps, so they work with radiators or in-floor heating. There's rebates for that too. And sometimes when homes switch from fossil fuel heating to a heat pump, they sometimes have to upgrade their electrical panel to accommodate for the new electrical load of the heat pump. So if that's the case for you, there is a $500 rebate for upgrading your electrical panel when you install that in combination with a heat pump. So that was the rebates. Rebate really just means you buy the heat pump, you get it installed, and then you apply, and then you get a rebate. But there's also an alternative, and that is a financing option. So if you'd rather have a loan for your heat pump, there is a program only for those who switch from a fossil fuel to a heat pump, and that is 0% financing over 5 years. The loans are between $1,000 and $40,000, and you have to work with a certain type of contractor. They're called finance registered contractors, which can be found on the Clean BC Better Homes website. And of course, you can only choose either the financing option or the rebate and not both. And on top of that, there's a really neat extra program, and it's called the group purchase rebate. So the group purchase rebate really just rewards people who work together as a group, as a community, and they get together and they decide that they're all going to install a heat pump around the same time within the same 3 months period. And they can either register as a group or join an existing group. And if they manage to all get their heat pump installed around the same time and then apply, each member of the group gets an extra rebate on top based on how many group members there are. So for instance, if you manage to get 13 neighbors or, a community group together, each member would get an additional rebate of $350. You first have to register for this program. So on the Better Homes website, you can definitely find more information about that. And you can always ask an energy coach as well how to get started. And we got municipal top ups. So municipal top ups are super neat. For those of you who are in New West, who are switching from gas, oil, or propane to a heat pump, you can get an automatic municipal top up with your normal heat pump application of $350. So you don't have to fill out any additional form. It will be automatically applied, first come, first serve, on based on the postal code that you have on your application. And of course, you must wonder, well, but where do I find a contractor to even do all of that? So, well, you can find a contractor on the CleanBC website as well. You can either find it through the menu button here, or you can find it directly under the link betterhomesbc.ca/PRC. PRC stands for Program Registered Contractors. And the way it works is you can just select that you want to install a heat pump, type in your location, so New West in your case, and then you get a list of contractors. And that doesn't mean that you have to work with those contractors for the rebates, but it is a really great place to start because those contractors have gone through some additional training. And last but not least, the last offer is the Canada Greener Homes program. So the Canada Greener Homes program is the federal program that launched this year. You might have heard of it. And that is a totally separate program from the provincial one. So let's take a look at that. Canada Greener Homes is federal, so available Canada-wide. It launched end of May this year. And what it does is it offers $5,000 or up to $5,000 towards energy efficiency upgrades like windows, insulation, but also heat pumps, and up to $600 towards Energuide home evaluations. So for you who are in New Westminster, you already have this really great program, Energy Save New West, where you get a very discounted Energuide home evaluation for $75. And that Energuide home evaluation is a requirement for this federal program. So you have to register for this program and get a pre-retrofit evaluation completed. You can do that through the Energy Save New West program and get it at a much cheaper rate. Then you would do your upgrades, your renovations, and at the end you would have to book a post-retrofit evaluation and then apply for all the grants. Worth noting, for this program, for a federal program, the home must be a primary residence. So if you're a homeowner, but you don't live in the home you own, it's a rental home, you're not eligible for Canada Greener Homes. The good news is that you can access both Canada Greener Homes and the CleanBC provincial rebates for up to 100% of the total cost of whatever you installed. Yeah, so you might find yourself thinking, okay, so many programs, but where do I get started? So if you wanted to maximize your rebates, get provincial and federal ones, then you want to get started with an Energuide home evaluation. Especially in New West, it's kind of a no-brainer with that low cost. And you can either register through Energy Save New West, and then you get an energy advisor assigned, which is pretty handy. Or if you choose to not go through that program, there's also energy advisors through the Better Homes website. And then you also have to register through Canada Greener Homes to basically get the process started and officially request an Energuide home evaluation. What you do really have to know about those two programs is that they are completely separate. They have nothing to do with each other, and they have their own set of program requirements. So be sure to review all requirements. You can always call an energy coach to, get started, see what you have to consider. And also the deadlines are different. So Canada Greener Homes actually doesn't have a deadline at all at the moment. But all the provincial rebates, so for example, those heat pump rebates, you always have to apply within 6 months of your invoice date or your evaluation date. So it's always within 6 months. So don't wait till the very end. Apply as you go along. And for Canada Greener Homes, you don't have a deadline. You just wait till everything's done, till you had your second evaluation, and then you apply. Okay, like I said, a lot of information, short amount of time. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I'm seeing that there's 54 messages in the chat, so I see you had a lot of questions. That is basically almost the end of the presentation. So first of all, I do want to really thank you for your interest in learning more about heat pumps. Very excited. It seems to be very engaged, and yeah, heat pumps are a great choice. If you have any in-depth questions about your scenario, your situation, I'll leave all these contacts open. And first, I want to start with the Clean BC Energy Coach service. I think I've said it so many times, but really a great resource, toll-free hotline. Then for specific question about Canada Greener Homes, they do have a federal hotline for that program, and they also have the world's longest email address. And for all the provincial programs, they are administered by BC Hydro and Fortis BC. So you can always contact them. They are going to be the ones that process applications. Yeah, again, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun telling you about heat pumps. And with that, I will pass it on to Sam for any questions.
Yeah, the chat was definitely busy tonight. I was doing my very best to get back to everyone. I think what we'll do now is I will end the recording, and just before I do so, I will just remind everyone that you will receive a copy of the recording as well as the presentation slides. And with all of the questions we received in the chat, as well as some of the questions that might come up right now, those get all put into a really nice follow-up document that will be included with that recording. So you get to read back on all those questions with useful links for more information. So with that, I'll end the recording.